Hi there. Welcome to the Imperfect Prophet podcast for women who wonder. Frankly, as we go through life, I'm sure we wonder about a great deal. First as little kids, then as adolescents, then as young women, then as transitional women. What are we calling ourselves these days? And then you get to this point in life, or my point in life, when you're postmenopausal and wondering what's next. Wondering if the parade already passed you by. Join me, Wonder Wendy. I'm going to be your host as we talk about some of these unique challenges that face women today in a new millennium, going through menopause and trying to live a rich, full life. There might even be a few men and younger women that want to listen in too. That's okay. But there's a roller coaster and we're all on it. And I'm going to be your guide to help you figure out when you should close your eyes, when you should hang on, and maybe we'll explore some ideas for what works for you if it doesn't work for me, or vice versa. So join the conversation, pick up your favorite beverage, and we'll talk to you soon. Welcome to The Imperfect Prophet.
Hey there. Welcome back to The Imperfect Prophet, a podcast for women who wonder. I've got my beverage, I'm settled in, and tonight I'm coming to you from Nashville. Actually, I'm in what they call the ironing room, which is on my floor in my hotel. You know me, I'm not one to record in a studio. I don't wait till everything's perfect. This is actually the second time I've recorded this episode because the first time the band was so loud that you couldn't hear me talking. The notes for this episode were written yesterday, but the day got away from me. So today I flew to Nashville and here we are recording. In Nashville, there's an incredible energy, and finding a quiet place to record is hard. So this is what you're going to get. I just had a fabulous dinner at Chef Ruby's Steakhouse in Nashville. Somehow they found out it was my birthday. Oh, wait, I told them. I told them it was coming up in a few weeks. I didn't tell them it was actually my birthday because it's not. And they made it very special. Candle, cupcake, special card. And now I'm winding down after a glorious day with an old-fashioned made with buffalo trace. By the time you hear this episode, I'll be back in Phoenix. And next week, I'll tell you more about what brought me here to Nashville. But yesterday morning, let's get back to the main story that I planned on telling you before I got distracted by traveling to Nashville. Something happened yesterday morning that really put a weird note on the whole day. I was watching the Today Show, just, drinking my coffee, slowly waking up like you do. And they casually mentioned that Charlie's Angels premiered 50 years ago. Wait, did they say 50 years ago? Because I really said it out loud. That just can't be right. Because in my mind, I'm guessing maybe in yours too, 50 years ago was like, World War II, right? Black and white footage, ration books, Rosie the Riveter, all that stuff. Like before I was born, right? Oh, wait, I just told you I'm about to turn 60. But 50 years ago couldn't have been Farrah Fawcett hair, not that iconic pose, three women mid-action, arms extended like they're about to take on the world. We all know it, even if we didn't actually watch the show. And yet here we are. And 50 years ago was the 1970s. Which means, and this is the part that really gets me, the things that feel like my life are now officially history. I do the math again. Oh yeah, I had turned 10 when the show first aired, and I'm about to turn 60. Intellectually, I know this, but emotionally, that show was on the air maybe 30 years ago. It's hard to deal with, isn't it? Do you have those same realizations? I guess that's one of the things that happen as we watch more years go by. But those women didn't just become history. They made history because Charlie's Angels didn't just change us. It changed television. I'm only going to be a few more minutes. They're hotel guests who are watching me. It's kind of funny. Not so many years before that, women were mostly written into stories as the damsel in distress, the one screaming, the one waiting, the one needing to be rescued by the hero. Yeah, usually a dashingly handsome man. And listen, I'm not opposed to being rescued. A sexy, shirtless fireman poster is a lovely accessory. Have you seen on Instagram those Australian firefighters with the puppies? Whew, that'll rekindle your hot flashes. Whew. But anyway, how much better is it if we learn to rescue ourselves? Yeah. And teach that same lesson to our daughters and our granddaughters? Charlie's Angels introduced a new kind of role model. Women weren't just reacting anymore. They were participating. They were doing the work. They were driving the story. It didn't just shift things, it blew the whole thing wide open. They were beautiful women. Yes, but also smart, savvy, strategic action heroes. They weren't waiting to be saved. They were the ones solving the case. They were the ones running toward the problem. They were the ones figuring it out. And yes, they had great hair. And yes, they were styled and sexualized in ways that might look a little odd to us now. Do you remember that phrase, jiggle TV? But still, they expanded what was possible. They cracked something open. They gave a generation of girls, even the ones who couldn't get ABC on their antenna, yeah, that was me, a new way to imagine themselves. And here's the part that makes this even more interesting. Even though I didn't watch Charlie's Angels, because we didn't have cable, but while I wasn't watching it, I knew everything about it because it was everywhere. Lunchboxes, notebook covers. It was cultural oxygen. It was playground currency. We actually played Charlie's Angels. And I always picked Kate Jackson. Always. Not Farrah Fawcett with the hair, Jaclyn Smith with the glamour. Although I did kind of wish I could be more like Jaclyn Smith. I wanted to be Kate Jackson. And here's the part I've been thinking about ever since yesterday morning. I didn't see myself as a sex symbol. Which, fair. I was only 10. You shouldn't see yourself as a sex symbol at 10. But I also didn't see myself as the brains. Kind of troubling and fascinating. Because even then, even as a kid, I was already editing myself. Already deciding who I wasn't without fully claiming who I was. I just knew I fit somewhere in the story, so I picked a lane and I stood in it firmly. And maybe that's what we do. We don't always see ourselves clearly. We feel our way into a role. We try something on. We say, I'm not that, but maybe I'm this. That play, that experimentation, that's how we figure out who we are and who we're not. And I really hope you're still doing that. Still playing, still exploring. Because the moment we stop, that's when life gets small. Don't get stuck in a rut. So those three women who are still remaining, Kate Jackson, Jaclyn Smith, and Cheryl Ladd. Cheryl replaced Farrah Fawcett after the first season. They were recently honored for their contributions to television history. And it's so odd to see them 50 years later. The two original Angels are both around 80, and Cheryl's well into her 70s, which is one of those moments when you go, wait, how did that happen? They're still beautiful, just changed by time. And talking about 78-year-olds, I have to tell you about one of our ushers at the Arizona Diamondbacks games. Now, if you've ever been to one of the Arizona Diamondback baseball games, you have seen the ushers. And a lot of them, they are retirees. Most of them aren't doing it for the money. They're there for the energy, for the community, for feeling a part of something and being alive. living fully. Now, as we've been season ticket holders for the last few years, we've gotten to know some of them. We consider them friends. On opening day, we hugged like long-lost cousins. They're not just people scanning tickets and showing us our seats. They're friends, they're fellow fans, people we talk baseball with, the potential of the new pitcher, or the depression when that new pitcher doesn't measure up to what we hoped. We share our joy and, yes, frustration. Oh, and some of that frustration is with some of the other teams who bring out fans who are just a little louder and ruder. You know who you are. I'm not going to name names, but let's do better, people, please. Anyway, back to the ushers. One of them recently celebrated a birthday. We're Facebook friends, so I saw her birthday on Facebook. And when she told me how old she was, because I told her happy birthday at the next game, I almost fell over. She said she's 78. 78. And let me tell you something. If you met her, that number would make no sense to you. She is vibrant. She's engaged. She is a spitfire. She's not very tall, but a commanding presence. She can marshal even the most unruly fan. I wouldn't want to challenge her. There is nothing about her that feels like winding down. She is not living in a rocking chair just because someone said, you're old. She is living her best life. And when she posted to Facebook that she was grateful for all the birthday greetings, but really surprised she'd lived this long, I found myself writing back, you may have a lot of years behind you, but you have such a youthful spirit. And that's when it hit me. Maybe we've been measuring age all wrong. Or maybe we've been measuring the wrong thing entirely. Because if 50 years ago can feel like yesterday and 78 can look like that, then what are we actually talking about when we talk about age? What does getting old even mean? Is there some kind of best by date stamped on us that I don't know about? And even those dates in the grocery store on the produce and everything, well, not produce, but the packaged goods we buy, many of them are more like guidelines. Half the time, that's really a sell-by date. The product is still perfectly good after that, sometimes for years. And you shouldn't just throw something out because it hit that date. Now, if it smells funny, don't eat it. That's my little bit of motherly advice or grandmotherly advice. But otherwise, those dates are often for liability and stock rotation. At best, they're often arbitrary. Okay, I'm sorry. I fully digressed. That's a whole other side of my personality. Anyway, what it's us people. Is it years? Is it energy? Is it a timeline? Or is it participation? Because I'm starting to think that what matters most isn't how long you've been here. It's how alive you are while you are here. There's no best by date stamped anywhere on your body. If you have a close friend who'd like to search for it, feel free to do so. But I'm pretty sure you don't have one. And suddenly that whole Charlie's Angels was 50 years ago thing, well, it's not so confusing anymore. I'm proud. Proud to be a part of a generation of women who changed the world and who continue to change the world. Have we faced challenges? Are there still challenges? Yes. I know I've experienced my share of gender bias in the workplace and in society, and that's probably a whole nother episode. But I've also been part of the change. I've used my voice. I've helped shift the narrative. I've helped the world to see us, all of us women, differently. Because if time is going to move on, and it is, if the decades are going to pass, and they will, then the question isn't how did that happen? The question is, what do I want to do with what's next? Now, we queenagers have learned a lot getting to this point in our lives. And I get it, it's so tempting to rest. but the world still needs you. Your wisdom, your lived experiences can help somebody else. And maybe this isn't the time to slow down. Maybe it's the time to step fully in, not quietly, not halfway. During that interview with Kate Jackson, Jacqueline Smith, and Cheryl Ladd, they talked about their experiences a half century ago on Charlie's Angels, and I realized something. And that's what inspired me to sit down and write this episode, to share these thoughts with you, because it reminded me how far we've come and how important it is to share what we've learned. Hearing them remind me of when they stepped into this role helped me understand how much further we've come. And of course, there was another lesson yesterday, because yesterday really wanted to mess with my mind about aging and time. We went to see the Broadway touring production of The Notebook. It's a musical that used to be on Broadway, and it's touring, and it was at ASU Gamage, so in my own backyard. Wow, I was more moved by that than I was by the movie. Yes, when you go to see it, bring Kleenex. I mean, from the first musical number to the last, I was verklempt. Translation, teary, choked up, the whole thing. It's one of those shows that somehow manages to do two things at once. It warms your heart and it rips it out at the exact same time. Because at the core, it's a story about time, about love over time, about memory, about what stays and what slips away. And sitting there after a day of realizing the 1970s were 50 years ago, watching a story unfold about a lifetime that folds back in on itself, I had this moment of realizing how important our time together is. It's precious and it's limited. And we know that. Of course we know that. But every once in a while, something really comes along that makes you feel it. And when you feel it, it hits you. I held my husband's hand more tightly. I thought about our lives. I remember my parents. I wondered how my children will feel as they watch me change. Yes, it's a little scary, but it's also clarifying. We hear it all the time. Tomorrow is not guaranteed. And yes, we're told to plan like we will live forever and live like today is our last day. But it's not always about extremes like that. Maybe it's just a simple thing. Maybe it's just remembering that this moment actually matters. Because here's what I know. We are living in the years that someday someone else will call a long time ago. And in the not so distant future, our children and grandchildren will refer to this as back then. We become the reference point, the lesson learned, or the cautionary tale. We are the stories that will be told, so tell a good one. In The Notebook, it reminds us of the power of telling our story over and over again, to remember, to connect. So I really want to ask you, are you participating in your life, or are you watching it go by? Because those ushers at the ballpark, they made a choice. They've stepped into something. They've said, I'm still in it. And maybe it's time to reevaluate our lives, to redefine what perimenopause, menopause, and postmenopause look like. Are we writing our own scripts, or are we playing out a scene we were told was ours? The ones we stepped into without even realizing it. The ones that felt like the closest fit at the time. So ask yourself, does it still fit? Hey, by the way, does anyone want to play Charlie's Angels with me? I think that could be fun. Are you picking out one of the original cast members, or are you creating a whole new character? Or is there another version of you waiting to be chosen? Because you don't have to stay with who you decided you were 20, 40, or even 5 years ago. Because back then you didn't yet know what you could be. 50 years from now, who do you want this version of you to be remembered for? Wait, what do you want this version of you to be remembered for? Who, what, where, when, why? I've always said I want my descendants to say, Grandma did what? Yeah, because why do we assume that our ancestors and elders were these neat, polished, puritanical versions of history, that the people who came before us lived small, tidy lives when we know we don't? Or maybe it's that we tend to see them as two-dimensional, either the hero or the villain. And more importantly, how do you want to feel while you're living it? Around here, bucket listers don't wait for permission. We don't shrink into the roles that no longer fit. And we don't sit on the sidelines of our own lives. We step in, we show up, we participate. Because this is your life right now. Not 50 years ago, not someday, now. Yeah. Welcome to the wonderful bucket list life, a life full of wonder. Until next week, stay curious, stay in it, and if this episode resonated with you, send it to the friend who came to mind and have them listen as well. We'll talk to you soon.
Like what you heard here today? Then we should be friends. I suggest you join my Facebook group. It's a good way to connect. We can have a conversation, ask me questions, whatever you want to do. It is called the Wonderful Bucket List Life. That's Wonder-Full Bucket List Life. Be a bucket lister and join me on this adventure. Or you can go to my webpage, which is Wonder Wendy and Friends, join the mailing list, learn about the book I wrote, adventures that are coming up in the future, and other podcasts. I look forward to talking to you soon, and stay hydrated. Have a great day.